Update 0.5 for anime Vanguards has been out for a little bit over a day, and I've had enough time to thoroughly play every single part of the update, as well as testing out most of the new units that they included in here. So now, oh, my Discord not yours. Let's turn off Discord for the video. Back to what I was saying. I've been able to test out pretty much everything that this new update has to offer, with the only thing that I haven't done yet is trying out Rengoku. But, you know, like, I've seen showcases on him, I've seen what he does. Like, I don't need to try him out to give a review on the update. So that brings me into the topic of this video. We are going to be giving an honest review on update 0.5, going over the good, the bad, you know, giving our honest opinions on whether this update was good or not, and what the devs could do to improve in the future. So with all that being said, let's start it off on a positive note with the good. This update definitely gave us some new content to try out, which obviously we're going to have to put in the good section. I believe we received 3 new mythics as well as 6 new units in total, with Akaza being one of them. In fact, just going to summon for him real quick, just because I can. See if we can do it before we hit Mythic Pity. Oh, wait, we got a mythic. Was it him? I don't think it was him, guys. I think we got some, like, random trash mythic. Anyways, back to what I was saying. We got a total of 6 new units this update, 3 of them being mythical. Actually, I guess one of them is exclusive. Rengoku is exclusive. And we got Akaza and we got Tengen in the banner. So we got 2 new banner mythics, 1 exclusive unit, but he's pretty much on par with mythics, so I'm going to refer to him as a mythic for this video. And we also got 3 like lower rarity units. We got 1 new legendary, 1 new epic, and 1 new rare, if I remember correctly. With the new legendary actually being pretty useful, it is the... Oh, we got another mythic. Is that the one we were looking for? Perfect. Yeah, so this is the brand new update 0.5 unit. One of them, with the other one being... Where is he at? There he is. Tengen. So these are the 2 new banner mythics, and they're pretty good. You know, new content. You can't really complain about new units. We also got a new farm unit. Oh, I almost sold that. Okay, that was close. I didn't mean to do it. We got a new farm unit. Takarota. I don't know what anime this guy's supposed to be from. All I know is that he's a new farm unit, and that's pretty cool. We only had 1 farm unit in the game, and that was Speedwagon, but now that we have a new legendary farm, that adds a little bit of more variety into your playstyle and the way that you go about doing certain things, so I'm not going to complain about that. That's another thing that's in the good. So overall, this update added a amount of content, a decent amount of content. We got the boss events, which is also a plus. This lets you buy stuff with these tokens, and you can buy an exclusive emote, which will be gone in 19 days, I believe. You can also get some trait rerolls, and you can get yourself some super stat chips and essences. One plus that I will definitely include about this update is that there are so many free-to-play ways to get rerolls. Albeit they're not infinite, you can't farm it infinitely, but the fact that they went out of their way to add a method of getting like rerolls as a free-to-play player, I can definitely appreciate that, because I myself don't spend that much money on the game. You know, if you're anything like me, you're never gonna buy any of these like premium... Actually, I did buy this. I'm a hypocrite, but you know, what I'm trying to say is you're never gonna buy hundreds of trait rerolls or hundreds, thousands of gems. Like, I don't have 8k Robux to drop on this game. Most people don't. You know, if you have that disposable income and you choose to gamble, and more often than not, it might not end well for you. But besides that, I can appreciate the fact that there is a way for me to grind out rerolls without having to pay anything. I can get 50 free rerolls right here just by playing the game. And in the raid shop tab, I can get 25 free rerolls just by playing the game. So that brings us into the next part of the good, and that's going to be how they've maintained the game relatively free-to-play friendly up to this point. You know, with each coming update, there does always happen to be the concern that, oh, is this update going to be pay to win? Are the devs going to try to squeeze as much money out of us as possible? But this update really didn't have that issue at all. The only quote-unquote pay to win thing that you might be able to argue for is the Fortune Catalyst, which gives you an increased drop chance of getting... Okay, why can't I get it? It gives you an increased drop chance of getting Rengoku, but even that isn't extremely pay to win, because you could just grind it out without the Fortune Catalyst anyway. And even if you don't want to pay the Robux, you can literally earn this for free. Besides that, you can't use Robux to buy anything else in this update. besides, you know, blah blah blah, traits, gems, which you kind of need. But you know what you get what I'm trying to say, right? You get what I'm hinting at. The unique new rewards you have to grind for yourself. The Blood Red Commander emote. This emote looks incredibly cool. Also, I just realized these guys forgot to add a description to this. Why does it say sample description? Okay. Yeah, this emote, very, very badass looking emote. You can't buy this. You have to earn it yourself. And these Evo items, the Nurturing Cleaver, Slayer's Cape, Demon Beads, you need to earn these. You can't buy these with Robux. And I can definitely appreciate that, because from a free-to-play player's perspective, it makes you seem, well, it doesn't make you seem, it makes you feel like the game isn't pay to win, in that all players are in equal standing. Albeit, they're never going to be on an equal standing, but it's nice to know that you can't just outright buy progression in this game if you have the money for it. Cough, cough, anime last stand with their bundles, but that's besides the point. You guys get what I'm trying to say. So overall, what were the main good points about this update? Number one, new content, obviously. Who's going to complain about new content? New event with a very cool map and a cool boss. The cinematic for the new event is also super duper cool. I'm sure most of you guys have seen it. You spawn in, you see Igris walking in, he sits on his throne, and then you start fighting the enemies. We also got a new raid with 4 different acts, new unit, which you can only get from the raid. We also got a free-to-play way of getting rerolls from here and from there, as well as the new mythic units. And that is all the good for this update. Now, a lot of you are thinking, hey Perry, you kind of just described the entire update, so can you enlighten me as to what wasn't good about this update? Well, we do have a lot to unpack here. So, with all that being said, let's move into the bad. Well, up first for the bad, it wouldn't be an Anime Vanguards update if it wasn't delayed. They did end up going way over the time frame that they had originally stated. Way over the time frame is a bit of an overstatement, because they did still release on the 22nd of Sunday, but it was so late at night that most people were either already in school, had to go to sleep, or it was just Monday for them. You know, some people that were on the other side of the world, next day was already there. So the update technically didn't even release for them on Sunday. And, you know, you could say, hey Perry, you're just like being impatient. Like, what do you mean the update came out late? It didn't even come out that late. The devs literally dropped a sorry for late release code acknowledging the fact that they went over their deadline. That was one gripe that the player base had, the fact that their update was delayed. And it got to the point where there were people like literally spam pinging the mods and the admins in different servers that weren't even Anime Vanguards. And when I saw that, I was just a little bit dumbstruck, because do they know that those dudes aren't devs? They do not make the updates. They do not make the game. Like, you spam pinging a moderator in the Anime Vanguards Discord server is like going into a swimming pool and being afraid of getting wet. You're gonna do absolutely nothing with your time. You get what I'm trying to say here? It was just kind of a bit of a big hot mess, with a lot of people getting death threats or getting harassed over a Roblox Lego game, which was just crazy. But the fact that it was delayed definitely didn't make anyone happy. It didn't make me happy. And on the topic of the update, something else that isn't really very nice is the fact that they shadow nerfed a lot of the units. Mainly Igris and Alucard. I don't even have Alucard, so I wouldn't be able to showcase that, but a lot of people are telling me that Alucard did get nerfed, but I can definitely notice the Igris nerfs, dude. They gutted this guy. He used to be the second best unit in the game. Now he's like maybe top 5, I think he's the 6th best DPS in the game right now. What I'm trying to say is they completely knocked him off of his throne, both literally and figuratively, because this dude is kinda hot ass now. And by hot ass, I don't mean that he's unusable. He's still a secret unit, he's fully AoE, he still does amazing damage. But the fact that you made him so incredibly good on release, and you made it that stupid 0.75% drop chance, which forced people to either macro and let their electricity bill go into the triple digits, or manually grind this and go insane. Like me, I got lucky. I got it in only 184 runs. And although you might think that's a lot, I know more than like 10 people who took them 500 plus runs just to get a singular Igris. Keep in mind, I didn't even play the game for most of these runs. I was literally just macroing all of this, and I still felt like it took a kind of an egregious amount of time just to get a singular unit. But you know what, I understood it. I was like, hey, it's 0.75% chance, but hey, at least it's free to play, at least it's macroable, I'm not going to complain, and it's a good unit. It gives everyone a chance to get a good unit instead of having to gamble for Alucard, so I can appreciate that, right? Next thing you know, update 0.5, you just get, hit with cold water. The realization hits you that your unit that you grinded for is now basically as good as the average mythic, which is definitely disappointing to see. I myself, as many other people, weren't happy with this change at all. But here's my personal take on it. I was watching a nag video that really, articulated this beautifully. I don't think I could have said it better myself, but when the devs change things, it's always better to be upfront about what you do. Because if you shadow nerf things and you straight up gut units that were insanely good without telling anyone, people can only assume that your intentions are for the worst. Now, I know why, or at least I have a personal idea as to why they nerfed Igris. It was because they didn't want the game to get power crept. They were going to add new units that were going to be strong, but they didn't want them to be too strong, and they also wanted them to be relevant to the player base. They didn't want to just have 2 throwaway units that would be ultimately worse than an update 0 unit, because at that point, what point do you even have of obtaining these guys? You don't have any incentive to actually grind for them. What did they do? They nerfed the best units in the game. Because if all the units, including the best ones from the last update, are on par with the new update units, obviously people are going to be more incentivized to grind for them. I understand that. From a game design and a balance standpoint, that makes complete sense. Yes, it is good that you nerfed Igris, because now that means that other mythics are actually good and they can compete for top DPS, especially your newer units. I understand that. But it feels like a complete slap in the face when you don't communicate with your community that you're going to be nerfing units, yet you keep the absolute horrendous drop rates and you continue to let people farm with the delusion that they're going to keep a great unit, only for their new unit to be completely turned mid on the next update. So there's definitely 2 sides to this argument, and I can completely understand both sides. From a dev standpoint, you can't keep outdoing yourself every single update, because then your game is just going to turn into a damage simulator, cough cough ALS, where your units are doing millions and millions of damage, and the power creep has just gotten to a point where if the next update doesn't have units that do at least double the DPS of the last one, people aren't even going to bother grinding for any of the new content. And I believe that's a situation that the anime Vanguards devs really don't want to find themselves in, and I can completely understand that. So what did they do? They do the only thing that they can, and that's nerf existing units that were overtuned before. I think the devs never intended to make Igris that good or Alucard that good. They just made them extremely strong because on release, they didn't have that much content, if I'm being frank, and they wanted people to have strong units to grind for. They wanted them to have an endgame goal. And what was that endgame goal? It had to be secrets. What else was it going to be? But now, with new updates and new content rolling in, they're quickly realizing that these overtuned units that they added on release are not healthy for the game as a whole. So that's just one of the biggest gripes that the community had, is the fact that a lot of stuff got shadow nerfed and we weren't even told anything. Obviously, I can deduce why this happened, but a lot of people, myself included, are going to have a pretty knee-jerk reaction when they see that a unit that is extremely rare, that they grinded for, that they earned, just go completely down the shitter because a new update is coming out and they need to make the new units feel strong. That just feels kind of backhanded. It doesn't feel good. And on the topic of things that don't feel good, the next thing that I want to talk about in the bad is just how buggy and unpolished the game was on release. Well, not on release, on the release of this update is what I mean. So many people in my comment section and in the Discord server were complaining because they couldn't even get past Act 1 of the raid. And that's not because they weren't good enough. Trust me, this Act 1 is literally a cakewalk. You could beat this with your eyes closed. It just didn't let you progress past Act 1. Like, it just didn't let you go into any of the other acts. And I asked myself, how did that get past testing? And yes, there is the argument, oh Perry, 50 testers versus 300,000 concurrent players. Obviously, people are bound to find bugs that the testers couldn't find on their own. And I completely understand that. But at the same time, locking literally half of the update behind a bug seems like a pretty big issue that shouldn't have been too hard to find. And besides the bug that literally stopped people from playing the new update for almost an entire night, I believe it lasted for a pretty long time. People were complaining for a while. There was also the fact that the game itself was just incredibly laggy when the update released. I had a ton of people spamming my DMs or sending me YouTube comments, or I would just read it on the Enemy Vanguards Discord server of people saying, Perry, well, what am I going to do? I can't play the game. My PC turns into a jet engine and starts spontaneously combusting as soon as I try to load into one of these maps because the lag is just horrendous. I can't even play the game. And, you know, obviously I can't help them, so I'll just be like, hey, damn. You know, I'm sure the devs will do something, but, you know, personally, I know that the fact that the game is as laggy as it is just because it's unoptimized. Now, I am not a game dev, I am not a scripter, so I can't really give any personal opinions because I don't have any expertise in this topic, but what I can definitely tell, you know, as someone who plays these games and has played a plethora of tower defense games, some games are definitely more optimized than others. And it doesn't matter if you have a NASA PC or if you have a $50 Temu laptop, at the end of the day, if a game is well optimized, it will take you less time to load. And this game was just not very well optimized at all. And this doesn't even have to do with the update specifically. On release, in early access, not even in early access, as well as on release, there was a frequent bug where you would stand here and it would take you a good 30 to 40 seconds just to be able to walk around. Like, you would load into the lobby, but your entire screen would freeze because the game was still loading the assets, which is just another example of the game being a little bit unoptimized. That same issue rears its ugly head in this update, where most people that didn't have amazing PCs or, you know, graphics cards, blah blah blah, they were literally just getting screwed out of the update, either because of a bug or because the game's rendering, or when the game was loading in, it would just be so incredibly laggy for the average player that it would ruin the entire experience for them. Now, why am I in here? Where am I? Okay. Anyways, what was I saying? I believe that's everything for the bad. So let's do a quick recap here. What was bad about this update? Well, number one, they gutted secrets. And I say the word gutted, I know that's a bit of an exaggeration. Obviously, secrets are still really, really good. But the fact that they went from being the literal best units in the game to now top 5 is definitely disappointing, especially for the people that manually grinded all those Igris runs and, you know, really put blood, sweat, and tears into this game. That definitely would suck. I didn't do that myself, but I can only sympathize for the people that got their cool new unit that they grinded for turned mid. I would be incredibly mad if I were them, and I can understand where their emotions are coming from, but that's just one of the bad things. Second bad thing, the fact that there was a lot of rampant bugs on release. People couldn't even get into the raid. The update itself was a little bit delayed, which also didn't make people happy. And the game's optimization could use a little bit of work, at least on the end of loading things in, because, my god, keep coughing, must be allergy season. What was I saying? Myself included, I've experienced a lot of issues with loading in and chunks rendering and this and that. And I feel like these aren't unfixable issues. I feel like with a little bit of quality of life fixes, optimization, we could really nip that in the bud and not have to deal with that anymore. So that is going to wrap up my honest review on update 0.5 in Enemy Defenders. What are my closing thoughts overall? What do I think about the update? I honestly think it wasn't a bad update. Is this an amazing 10 out of 10 update that is flawless and has no issues? Absolutely not. But is it new content? New content that we want to see and stuff that we want to play? Yes, it is overall a good update. It's just a little bit rough around the edges, and I think that the best thing to do moving forward is just to learn from their mistakes. And I'm sure that they're obviously going to do that in the future, so I hope this video ages bad. If it does age bad, that means that the following updates are very well optimized with little to no bugs. But maybe that's wishful thinking, who knows? With all that being said, that's going to be it from me. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching. Have a great day or night wherever you are. Stay tuned for more content, and we'll catch you in the next one.